best person for that, or what did you say? I hope I can. But yes, I'm Niels Edeltoft from Henning Larsen Arkitekter, and I've been working at Henning Larsen Arkitekter for quite a while. And I've been connected to this, the planning of this new city in close to Frederikssund for the last 7, 8, 9 years. I just have to explain why I've been connected to that for so long. And I have this introduction to Vinge is divided into, I think, in 2 pieces, and that's because we were invited to participate in a competition 8 years ago, and it was about developing this new city, Vinge, close to Frederikssund. And there were actually no winner of this competition. It ended up with these 5 teams working parallel and handing in the competitions, our suggestions, but there was not pointed out a winner for that competition. We worked together, I have to mention that, with the Effect Architects and Mo, the engineers, Mo and Marianne Levinsen on the landscape architect. And I think the whole thing was stopped or on hold because of the economic crisis and because of kommunesammenlægning. I don't know the English word for that, but it was kind of you put various communes in Denmark together, and that created a kind of a vacuum. After that, all the politicians didn't know what to do, and that was why this whole project were put on hold, and there were no winner announced for that for the first part of this development. Then when the economic crisis left a bit and things were changing, they started up this whole idea about having this city, creating the idea of planning this city here. And actually it's been a very old, I think for the last 30 or 35 years, this idea about having a city on this spot has been part of the local discussion in Sjælland. And the whole program for the competition, we were invited to participate in this next competition, and the whole program for that competition was actually very much leaning on our idea from the first competition. So in a way we were announced as a winner because the whole program was built on our ideas about how to develop this city. So it was a very good thing that we was part of that competition, and we won that competition. And then the last part of it is what I would call that vision meets reality, and that was the center part of the city, and we have been working on that for the last couple of years, and that was the whole idea about putting out this piece of land for tender so the investors can buy the land and start to develop and build this city. So that's the point where all our visions and ideas about the city meets reality. So that's kind of the 2 parts of this. But first of all, the whole idea about the city, I will try to frame the context. So I think a lot of you might know this place up here and might know about the project, but I'll explain the whole situation about this. And the green spot here is the spot for Vinge, and this is Frederikssund here, and you have Frederiksværk up here and Roskilde down here, and you have this very beautiful fjord running, Roskilde Fjord, running all the way here. So Frederikssund is connected directly to the fjord, and Vinge is very close to this fjord. And the plan for developing Copenhagen and the finger plan, I know a lot of you know about that, but it's actually a very old plan, and was the whole idea of Copenhagen should be developed along these fingers, the fingers of a hand. So you dense the city and all the buildings along these fingers, and infrastructural structure that's running along the fingers, and then you have the green areas running between the fingers. So you have the green area, everybody is connected very close to a big green area, and this green area is drawn all the way into the center of Copenhagen. So that's the whole idea of how Copenhagen should be developed. And that's very important when you talk about development of the cities along these fingers. And like you can see here, this is it's actually, I won't show it, this finger on the finger plan, and you can see when you map the cities along the fingers that we are actually following this finger plan, ending up in Helsingør, in Hillerød, and Frederikssund, Roskilde, and Køge. So we are actually following this finger plan, and Vinge is part of that plan. Yes. When we started this, I will explain about Vinge in the way of I will explain how we have been working on this project, what we are doing, and how we are analyzing the site and all that stuff. And hopefully from that you can get the idea of why Vinge looks like it does. And of course we start up with analyzing the context, all the stuff you have on the site already, and from there you develop the main design grip on the city. So you have to have an overall design for that city that is so clear that everybody knows how the city should be developed, and actually make it realistic so the plan can develop from that main idea. And when we look at the existing conditions up there, we have of course some topography we have to regard. And it's not, compared to other places in Denmark, it's quite hilly. You have a difference with, 10 or 15 meters, a very hilly landscape up here, and that's of course part of the whole site. And then you have some natural, some nature up there that is very important to preserve that. These areas are pointed out with the green here, and you have some forest up here that has to be preserved as well. And then you have all the water, how the water reacts, and how the city is developed when you look at the water features up there. And then you have the existing buildings up there, mainly farmhouses or smaller villas and all that stuff. There's not much going on this side here, so it's a nice place to develop a city, because you don't have that many buildings to respect and all that. And at the same time, it's a rare situation that you don't have a context when you develop a city to develop from that existing city, but you have a kind of a clean canvas to work on. The infrastructure is very important, of course, when you plan a new city. And if you see the image up here, you have the existing infrastructure mapped out. And this road is the main road running to Frederikssund is up here, and this road is the main road connecting directly to Copenhagen. And it has to be expand this road over the next years, and so it's easier to get directly from Copenhagen on Frederikssundsvejen to Frederikssund and to Vinge as well. And then you have another very important thing is the train line to Copenhagen from Frederikssund and all the way to Copenhagen. It's running, crossing the site in an east-western direction. And that's the whole, that's a very important thing for this city, that they actually have a train line running through the city, and that there's been planned a station in the middle of the city. And that's why this vision for this city is very unique compared to other city developments in Copenhagen, that you have a kind of a clean canvas, but you have the main lines, the infrastructure very well connected to the rest of Sjælland. And then you have the existing farmhouses here and some plantation. That's very important. And you have this image over here became very important later. It's actually the ownership. Who owns this land? Frederikssund Kommune does not. I'm not sure if Søren has talked about that, but they don't own all the land here. And actually, when we had the first workshop with the vision for the first images I showed you, we had this parallel competition. All the people who had something to do with this spot out here were invited to participate in these discussions about how to develop this new city. And of course, all the landowners was here, and of course, some investors were there. So when we started the whole idea about developing this city, some of these investors went out and bought the land from the farmers there. They said, okay, there's money in this, we have to buy this land. So when Frederikssund Kommune wanted to realize this plan, and they came out to the landowners, they have already sold the land. But then the economic crisis came, and the people who had bought all this land had to get rid of the land and sell it. And that's why the Frederikssund Kommune got the chance to buy back or buy the land, so it's possible to develop the city. So this map up here became very important later in the process. And this is how we regarded all the nature, all the animals, how they divide and split into the various parts of this area. And it's of course important that when we have a small country like this, that whenever we build a road or a city or something, that we have to be aware of how the animals spread along these roads and cities. So it's important that we have these corridors running through the cities. So this is a mapping of how the frogs and the bats and the deers and how they react in the city now. So that was part of the design. And this is a image of the future infrastructure, and you have this plant station in the center of the city, and you have Ølstykke, the next city close to the east of Vinge, and you have Frederikssund up here, and you have the main road running to Copenhagen. And on this spot there will be created a new bridge, or a road to a new bridge crossing Roskilde Fjord. Those of you who knows a bit about Frederikssund know that the existing bridge in Frederikssund is not big enough to take all the traffic from the other side of Roskilde Fjord. That's why there's been a plan about creating this new bridge crossing Roskilde Fjord. And then again, that's a very important thing when you look at this, creating this new city here, that you actually will get a new connection crossing the fjord on this spot. That means that a lot of people will come to this junction here, and a lot of them will use the city, go and buy their stuff in the city, or maybe live in the city, or maybe they take their car from this side and from the other side of the fjord, and then they park in this city. So it's also a city for the commuters as well. So you have this life in the city, and that you have the possibility of shops. It could be possible to run a shop in this area if you have all these people coming to the city. And of course we have to look at the rainwater. How will the rainwater react on the site? And you have from this a split through the site. All this water will run to this side, to the nature on this side, and the other on the other part of the city will connect to the fjord. I have to go back to this picture to explain that this, from the beginning when I talked about the finger plan for Copenhagen, this part of the city, the eastern part of the city, is a very beautiful place with a swampy area and lake, and all that is connected to the green corridor running all the way to Copenhagen. And the other side of this city, you have Roskilde Fjord out here, and you have from these higher points on the site, you can actually see the fjord. So that's why the city is very well connected to both trains and cars and nature. So it's a very good position for a city. So this is all these images are a way to show how we work, how we map the conditions on the place out there. And the next thing is to make a vision for the city. How is the city going to be? What is in the city, and how is it going to be developed? So this vision for the city meets the reality on the site. And the whole idea about the main structure for the city is this long run green corridor or spine or heart running through the whole city. If you look at cities that are about the same size of this in Denmark, you have all the common things. I mean, the sports field, the churches, the kindergarten, the elder houses, All these common things where people go and meet, they are spread like small dots around the city. And the whole idea about this was to drag all these activities into one long spine that connects the whole city. So when you go into this, the green corridor or the green heart in the city, you have all these activities going on along this corridor. So that was kind of the structure we put on the conditions that was already out there. So this is the situation with the train running through the site here, and then this green heart running north-south in the city. The next step from this, to divide this into smaller areas, like you saw in the film, it's very important that we at the end look at how is the life between the houses, how does that work, and how do people live, how do people feel the city, and not feel it by 60 kilometers in the hour or 100, but when you walk around the city. And that's why the whole idea from this very simple diagram to develop that into smaller areas where we have these green corridors that connects the green heart and the whole city to the surroundings, the nature, the fjord on one side and the beautiful nature on the other side. And from that you divide these areas into smaller areas, and that creates the whole structure for the streets running in the city. And that makes, at the end, this makes it possible to design or draw this whole map or master plan of city. Here we have pointed out all the qualities, all the things that could happen along this line. Of course, at this point, it's only ideas and visions for it. It's not reality, but the whole idea about it, because later on, it's important to find out if these things can happen along this line. So that's the whole plan for the master plan for Vinge City. We did the first step of that. And we have kept these two small villages close to the city, but we have kept them to have their own identity and not be part of Vinge, but have their own identity. And then we have the green heart running through and the corridor spreading around here. And we have the junction that connects Frederikssundsvejen to the new bridge crossing the fjord down here. And we have at some places we have roads or railroads crossing the green heart. But it was mainly meant that the green heart should be for walking or bicycling along this northern-southern direction. And from ancient times, it was actually there was a path running here that was called the dry-footed path. So way back, this has actually been where you walk. When you walk in this area, you follow this line. It's not exactly like this, but it's a good story. The next step is to point out the main structure for the city. And of course, all the building, the structure for the building is very important. How is the structure? And the density. Where's the density? It's not a city that is that's equal all the way from the north to the south. Of course, it has to be some variations in the city. So that's why the density is very important. And the green structure, we have the green heart and green corridors. And the blue structure, how will the water run up? It's very difficult to get the water to run uphill. So that's why we have to make the plan of where this water run has to be connected, where these green spots are and how the city is developed. And then again, how the infrastructure is mapped upon all these things. And this is for the more weak, for the people walking or the people on bicycles. How do they use and where do they go in the city? So all this is kind of the mapping put on the reality on the site out there, and that makes the whole master plan for the city. And you can see the surroundings around here. That you have the beautiful nature out here, and there's a big lake down here, and there's a swampy area and small creeks running here connecting to the river, and you have water running from here connecting down to the fjord. So So that's how this plan is a mixture between the whole idea about the city, how it structures, and then the reality on the site out here. The landscape is a very important thing about the city. We had the idea from the beginning that the landscape should be very integrated in the city, that it's not only a city, but it's a landscape and a city, and you can't tell exactly when landscape stops and city starts. So that was the vision for the city from the beginning, that landscapes should be a very important part of the city. And these are all the activities that we thought could be going on along the green heart of the city. We did a lot of studies how the buildings meet the nature and the green heart, and we made these sections all the way through. I bought a couple of them here, but we made sections all the way through the heart to see if the width of the heart, if it was too wide or it should be more narrow, and all that stuff to qualify the whole plan, and to see how will people, how the scale, the human scale, how will that work in this plan we've got here. And all these sections are from the green heart to see the variations in the green heart. And this is how the water runs in the city, and the green corridors, and the smaller sections of the city, and how the nature reacts to the city. And these green corridors that are shown here, we took all of them and gave them their special identity. So it was not just a green corridor; it had all of them had a special identity. So we took only brought one of them, but we did all the green corridors were kind of shown how they should be designed and what should be part of that corridor. And we did some analysis on the city, and then the most important thing in this city is in a way is the center. That's where the whole city starts, and that's where we have to make sure that the train doesn't divide the city into two parts, but that the station is part of connecting the city across the railroad line. So that's why the center of the city and the station is very, very important. So that's of course regarding the infrastructure and the landscape, and we have all the green corridor running over the station here, connects the railroad is running here, and you have the green stuff running over the station, and you cut a hole in this, and you drag all the water from the areas close into the station, and you could have forest on one side and water on the other side. So you get this when you leave the train, you have a feeling of that you're entering not a city, but a combination of a city and nature. And then this is a vision for the buildings, and of course this later on has to meet the reality when you look at who wants to live out here, and how do they want to live, and what kind of streets do they want, and the height of the building and all that. So we did the principles for the buildings was the density of the city. You have a more dense city along the railroad in the middle and the station, and then you have the access to the city from this point, and the train and the main line, the main road into the city, and you have all the functions of the city divided into different areas, and then you have all these city functions along the line here. What could be put in the center of the city? And then again, we analyzed the way the buildings meet the green heart. What is the whole atmosphere between the building? How is that? So we did a lot of analysis along the green heart and in the city to see if the scale was right. And some figures, of course, to find out if it was, how big should these areas be? Was that a good unit to develop? And the heights of the building, and the roads and the streets and the squares and all that. So we did that for the whole plan. That's this area up here, And we had all the big boxes, all Rema 1000 and Jysk Sengelager and all that, out close to the main road connecting to Copenhagen, so that people, if they go and visit these places, they don't have to cross the city, but they could give life to the city, but not cross the city with their car. So that's why all these big boxes, the idea of putting all these big boxes close to the main road out here. And at the same time, you have all the people from this point crossing the fjord, going to their summer houses. They stop up here and they use the city to buy stuff in the city. And the people for the whole area comes to this city and commutes to Copenhagen from there. So it was also a city for commuters, and not only for the people living in the city, but people using the train station to Copenhagen. And then that's even a step further, closer to how this street should be designed, and how the life in the street could be if the layout was like this. And we did some diagrams showing how the sun, where you have the sun in the evening and in the morning in summer and winter time, to make a big variation of this, the life between the houses. And we compared all these areas, the density of the buildings, and we had some examples to show people what is the density. If you have this density, what could you compare that to? And we have all this mapped into the site. And that was the major plan for how the city should develop. And of course the infrastructure, and this is an early image of the landscape crossing the station, and you have a lake, the swampy area going all the way into the station here, and you could have a forest on the other side. So that's how to show that this place should be a place that connects the city and not divides it into two. And you have these tall buildings in the middle, so there was an idea of going up to 7, 8, 9, 10 storages in the middle of the city to make it a dense city and not an average city. And that's all the roads, the cars. We counted all the cars and found out how should the traffic, where should you cross the Green Heart? Only a few places, and you still have the opportunity of crossing the railroad here and in the middle. So you have a structure that is working, so people don't have to cross the whole city, but could follow this to where they live. And this is the outline of Vinge, and it's called Vinge. They had a competition in Frederikssund about the name of this city, and I think it was a 12-year-old kid who said it looks like the wing of a bird, so that's why it's called Vinge. So, and you have the fjord out here, and you have the connection. Here is the connection where the new connection across will be here at this point. So this, from here you could go follow the new road to this connection here, and or into the city and the railroad that is running here, and you have the station in the middle here. So that was the first part of what we've been doing in Vinge. The next part of it was a new competition. We won that competition, and it was the first step into realizing. Make a realization of Vinge. And this was, Frederikssund wanted to develop the center of the cities as the first part of it. This area is actually under construction now, so that's the first part of the whole city. We didn't design that, but that's actually under construction now. But they wanted to show that they meant this, that it was they wanted to develop this city, and that's why they bought all the land in the middle, and that's why the first stage of the development of Vinge is in the center of it. And our job was to make this realistic, so you could get investors interested in buying this piece of land and develop Vinge. So that's where the vision meets reality. All the beautiful ideas we had about how the city should be now met the reality. We had a couple of investors on board the team who guided us of course you have to analyze who's willing to move out to this city, and what do they want, how do they live, how big should their houses be, and all that stuff. So that's a very interesting stage where you have to get this vision into reality. So we had the whole idea about the buildings from the first competition. We developed that into the next stage, where we said we don't want to. We had a lot of variations in the building in the first competition, but in this stage we said we have all these boxes. We have these square boxes, and we use that. That's a catalog for the buildings we want to use, and you can combine them in a lot of different ways. And that's the interesting thing, and the good thing about that is that we create a big variation of room between the houses. And that's a very good thing when you look at the wind. When you have the western wind running here, if you have these variations, it will not speed up. So you have a kind of a look at the microclimate at the same time. And then again, you have the sun. When you look at the sun, you always have small spots where you can find the sun in this city. So that was the whole idea, that we have this catalog of houses, and we put them into the area. We have the station in the middle, and it was one big element, a big bowl that connects the green heart across the station and the station to the sides of the city. And you have all these rooms between the houses, all these variations in building, and of course you have these elements are changing in heights as well, and you have the more dense city around the center in the middle here. And Frederikssund Kommune wanted to be there as well. They have a library in there. They have a children's garden and a fighting sports center and other activities. So Frederikssund Kommune is actually going to rent part of this, the center of it. It's just for them to show that they mean this city. They want to live and be part of that as well. And you have the Green Heart running from here, and the whole idea about that the town developing along the Green Heart, and that the Green Heart always makes sense. Of course, you don't have the Green Heart all the way running in the whole city, but when you develop this part of the city, you have a small part of the Green Heart. So you always put the city close to this Green Heart, and that the Green Heart, the size of the Green Heart, makes sense when you develop this city. So it's not only a vision, but it's actually working when you develop the city in stages. And this is an image close to the station, where you have the high rise, or the higher building, and close to the station. I don't know what this basketball thing is doing here with all this water here, but yeah. Nowadays, all your images have to show some rainy water and clouds and all that stuff. That's how we do it now. And this is the plan of the city, with the station in the middle, and the big bowl. And you have this Delta-kvarteret, the buildings under construction now. And you have this area where you have a very rare frog living here, so we couldn't touch this area. There's living a butsnudefrø in this area, so it was very demanding to take care of that frog and create the best living possibilities for that frog in this area. And that's why in that way, the Green Heart is sometimes it's a function of a city, and sometimes it's a thing already existing out there that creates the Green Heart. And this is a program for the Green Heart. Of course, we couldn't from the beginning tell what was going on in the Green Heart, and this is all the activities we think could be going on in the Green Heart along this road. And part of this is going to be developed by Frederikssund Kommune themselves, so they have to pay for all these activities going on here. and we have this part of it was meant to be a forest, a kind of a forest with trees running all the way into the station here, and this is a more swampy area from this side, so you have the feeling when you get off this train that you have a forest on one side and all the more swampy area on the other side, so you are part of the nature in the city at the same time. And this is images from the station with the forest part, and you have a bridge crossing here, so you have a circular connection on the square, and you will of course have shops and, like I talked about, the library and the children's garden and fighting sports center and all that going on in the ground level of the building, so you create life on the streets in the city. And that's just to show that the whole idea from the beginning with the Green Heart and these corridors are followed up in the first step of the city. So we hope that the whole structure of the city is so robust, so it can be developed in a good way. And this is the image from the Frog side. And the station is up here, and the higher building around the station, and the green spine running into the station, and actually showing that this stuff connects the city across this train station. And this is an image showing the square, the station square, and we hopefully there will be a lot of cafes around here, and they have the library here and the children's garden, all that going on here. And you have from here you can actually see the fjord along the railroad, and you can see into the Green Heart from here and from here. And this is the last picture. It's just some atmosphere from the whole plan. But I think the interesting thing for us is that we've been part of developing the whole concept for the city, and actually ending up with, or not ending up, but taking part of the next step of the realization of this city, where all this the vision meets reality, and that's a very good thing, to just not making the city and all the visions, but actually finding out if it works. There's a lot of conditions that you have to regard if you want to create a totally new city.
Right.
Okay.
Thank you so much.